Hey y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. We are Real Estate Elevated, and today's episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina Now What is why land and the purchase of land might be the American nightmare and not the American dream. So anytime you go into a contract of any kind, whether we're talking new construction, resale, or the purchase of land, you always want to make sure you understand what you're about to jump into. So make sure you're working with a professional who actually does deal with this type of product on a regular basis so they can advise you accordingly. One pro tip about real estate is things do not always work the way that you expect them to, so you have to learn to pivot. So we're going to go ahead and bring you 7 things to look for before you jump into a land contract. The first thing is the type of soils. So anytime you're building a new home, especially in an area that is not as urban, is you want to make sure that it perks. A perk test means you're going to install some type of septic system, and you're going to have to look at how many bedrooms it perks for. The reason why that's important is if you have this grand plan of building a 10-bedroom house, but it only perks for 2, you won't be able to advertise that in MLS. So again, make sure you're getting a perk test. Now, some of you are immediately thinking, well, it's really close to civilization, so why can't we just tie into city sewer? You got to check with town planning before you decide to make that commitment because it may not be on the schedule. Another thing is a well test. So thinking about utilities again, one big thing that you need to verify is if you have a water source. If you have to drill for a well, you definitely need a soil scientist to tell you where that's going to be. It needs to be in close proximity to the home. You also need to know how deep it's going to be. And a big thing to keep in mind too is water pressure. Sometimes well water does not have the same type of pressure as city water. So if that's a big deal to you, you might want to look into that a little further. Now, if it is close to an urban environment, you might be able to do city water or a tie-in. So always double check that with planning as well. The next one is power. So if you need electricity, which I would imagine you would if you're building any type of subdivision or future home site, make sure that, again, you're looking for tie-ins into utilities. A lot of times we will actually see power lines running through even a vacant piece of land, but still, again, that's something you want to double check before you commit to the project. The fourth one, and this is a big one, is rock. So there are certain parts of the triangle where finding granite and other types of rock is pretty common, very consistent. So why does that matter? Can't you just kick it to the curb? Well, actually you can't. You're gonna have to blast through that. And some places the rock can be pretty deep, and that can cost you thousands of dollars. There's actually certain parts of the triangle where you could spend maybe $40,000 on one teeny parcel because you have to blast through the rock in order to get the usable soil and then plant your house. So always double check, is this a consistent issue in the area or what type of soils you're dealing with on that property. The fifth one is another really good one that we do actually see in existing homes as well, and that's flood zones. But when you're building a home or buying land to put some kind of structure on, even if it's commercial, you want to see if you have flood-prone soils. Sometimes the soil itself, because of the water or being near a riparian buffer or anything like that, you may not be able to use them, or they might be prone to flooding, therefore you can't put a structure on it. Or if you're in a flood zone, you're now going to have additional insurance, which is added cost that maybe it was not worked into the budget. So always double check that. Easy to check through your local GIS map or even the FEMA mapping system. The sixth one is planning and zoning, and wow, this one is a big one. A lot of times people will move to North Carolina in the hopes of having some kind of micro farm or even chickens in their backyard, or you have an intention on subdividing and putting multiple properties on 16 to 40 acres of land that you've now found online through MLS. Well, you got to check with town planning because they might have restrictions, covenants, or rules that you have to adhere to, like an ETJ, where you may not be able to do what you intended to do. So again, double check planning and zoning before you take that big vision, that picture in your head, and you commit to anything financially. And the last one, the seventh one, and this can be a little tricky, especially if you're looking into more rural areas, is access. And by access, I mean you found this great property, this piece of land. How are you getting to it? How much road frontage does it have? If you're planning to subdivide, you might need more road frontage in order to build the type of home or homes that you have in your plans. Another thing is if it's a dirt or gravel road, is there some kind of easement agreement? Is there a road maintenance agreement? And if there is a private road maintenance agreement, is it actually being enforced or has it lapsed over the course of time? You do have to remember your construction crew, your builder needs to have access to the land in order to build. So that's a big one that we often see where these easements kind of might just be a gentleman's agreement, and there's nothing that's actually recorded. Even if you do have a recorded easement, always verify that the easement will also support your intended use of the land. What I mean by that is if you're planning on building a subdivision and not a single family home, there might be some restrictions on the easement in order to do the construction. So lots of things to consider when it comes to land, guys. Land can be the American dream. You might be able to build the home or homes of your dreams, but trust and verify. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. Please be sure to follow us for more quick tips and tricks in real estate by either following our YouTube channel and getting those subscriber updates, or you can listen to us on your drive by checking out Spotify everywhere. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.